We got a old piano out of the basement, put it on the elevator, brought it up, pulled it out on the front steps of the building. I sat there and played gospel music all day long, and my cohorts sang it. From sunup to sundown, we wouldn't let anybody in the building until the dean heard our demands. And after about a week, he said, "Okay, I'll hear." And that's what we said. We want. There were really no any African American courses in music. You know, the only you learned about some of the classical African American composers, but you know some of the jazz greats and people like that. They didn't mention that.
I'm sure that our viewing audience, is as surprised as I am.
Yeah, usually most people are.
Because you would think that a historically black college is going to make sure that music, especially jazz and gospel, which is the black heritage, that is celebrated, well, now it's,
Around
a
the
new
world.
millennium, but around
Yeah.
the world,
Yeah.
it's celebrated, that would be part of the heritage and legacy of African-American music.
Yeah, it was just the mode of thinking from that era, that group of musicians, especially those who've been classically trained. Even though they were African American, they did not embrace their own unless it was classical. They did, of course, embrace the Negro spiritual,
Right.
but anything beyond that was junk. You know, some of my teachers threatened me that if I didn't get out of the gospel choir, Howard University's gospel choir was sort of formed under that situation as a protest against the establishment, and we had students who were threatened by their teachers that we'll fail you if you don't get out that choir. We had some who would sneak around and go to rehearsal to tell my teacher I was here, So it was the first time we had performed, the Howard Gospel Choir performed on for graduation. Half of the faculty got up and walked out.
Really?
Yeah.
How do you think the success of bringing gospel music to Howard affected maybe other historically black colleges?
Oh, it affected them immensely. I think Howard probably, of course there was the Fisk Jubilee Singers at Fisk, but I think Howard probably had the first authentic gospel choir in any university, and it just began to spread like wildfire all over, the historically black colleges, even in some of the white campuses. I ended up teaching at the University of Maryland, which is, mostly Caucasian.
And what year was that?
What year?
Yeah,
It was 75, 76,
Okay,
77.
yeah. So
somewhere
we
around
were
there.
still coming out of the
Yeah.
60s. Dr. King had not
Right.
long been,
Right.
assassinated. So
Right.
there's still the turmoil going on.
So here's basically, white university comes to me and says, we want to offer a class in gospel music, and we would like you to be the head of the gospel choir and teach it. And I couldn't do that in my own university where I graduated from. So
That's
it's just
amazing. That's
it's
amazing.
incredible. Yeah.
How does it feel to be a part of history? I mean, not just with your music. Some of your music or songs that you've written are standards. You've been honored by the Smithsonian. That's huge as far as I'm concerned, because I'm a lover of the Smithsonian. But how does it feel to be a part of history? Not just making music, but part of musical history.
Well, it's strange because when you are living through those times, you don't look at it as I'm making history, And even when I look back now, you were doing what you had to do. You were doing what you loved to do, and if there was a need that arose where it was something that you need to stand up for and be vocal about that was injustice as far as we were concerned, you just did it. You didn't look at it as being that. And even now, like I said, when I look back at it, it was just, a part of my life where I did what I had to do, I'm honored that it's considered history, but it's sort of hard for me to divorce myself from the situation to say that's history.
It seems that
Concrete
way.
do. Yeah.
You know, when Rosa Parks sat down, she was just tired.
Right,
She
exactly,
didn't say,
exactly.
You know, I'm
Right,
going to
right.
change the face of civil rights and anything. It's true.
Exactly.
You're just in it and you're doing it, and then you look back and you're honored and you appreciate it.
Right, right.
That's amazing. Now, your mom, what role did she play in your life, especially as a musician, an artist?
Everything, everything. My mother, I really know that God entrusted my life into her care. She was a lover of music. She was not a musician, but she loved music. There was music in the house from the time I can remember, whether it was Nat King Cole or Ella Fitzgerald or Sarah Vaughan. I mean, it was always music coming out the radio. It was just always music. She started buying me recordings when I was about 4 or 5. First, it was like children's recordings, and then they graduated to gospel music. I was a gospel music fanatic. So she started buying me 78s, you know, of different gospel, famous gospel artists. And then she would take me to the concerts whenever they would come to town. And for a while, I lived in Philly. So you had a lot of the major gospel artists of that, what they call the golden age of gospel, who lived in Philly. So I got a chance to see, you know, Clara Ward and the Davis sisters and many of those people, like many, many, many times. And that was just sort of my foundation for who I was going to become. The most significant thing is that when I was about 7, certainly no more than 8, my mother brought me a recording of Rachmaninoff's Piano Concerto No. 2. And she brought it home and said, I want you to listen to this. And if you like it, I'm going to take you to some classical concerts. I'm going to take you to hear the symphony orchestra. And I put it on the turntable and was in love. I had never heard anything like it. So she would take me to gospel concerts. She would take me to hear the Philadelphia Symphony Orchestra, and any kind of cultural thing she was exposing me to. And it had so much to do with laying the foundation of
who you become as a person.
Exactly.
So I guess it was tough when you lost her, when she.
Very hard, very hard. And I'm an only child, so it was hard.
Up next, there's more with A.R. Bernard after the break.